Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're back again with some more of map 7 Alliance Quest action. So my typical path is Footloose in section 1, section 2 this week it's Freezer Burn, and section 3 it's Buffed Up. So this time we're going in with a full Night Thrasher team. So I'm using rank 4 Guillotine, rank 4 Darkhawk and a rank 5 Night Thrasher, just because Night Thrasher perfectly fits for path for section 2 and 3. So basically in my first section I'm kind of like goofing off, and my mission is just to use Guillotine and Darkhawk just because I will not have any use for them in section 2 and 3. Therefore I can play sloppy, I can be a bit kind of like silly, make some silly mistakes, which I will again in this fight. The Guillotine is going to go down fairly quickly, but our first fight is Black Panther Civil War. Now he is by far the more annoying opponent on my path in section 1, just because you can't parry him, and with Footloose node you're basically just forced to eat a lot of block damage just by kind of like waiting out the unstoppable and evades from Footloose. Now on another note, this week is a skill champion week, therefore skill champions do receive plus 40 attack. So Night Thrasher is basically perfectly set to showcase what he can do. Now it is definitely worth mentioning that Night Thrasher does not necessarily need any of these synergies for AQ. I have run him multiple times without synergies for AQ and he does just great. But I figured I will not particularly need anything else aside from Night Thrasher, therefore we're just gonna see how that works out. But yeah, there I hate the level 1, a big mistake with Guillotine, so hopefully I just need to close out this fight and then we can move on to the next one. But since we have 10 souls and Night Thrasher's synergy does give Guillotine quite a lot of critical rating, we should not have too many issues kind of closing out the fight. Now I was being a bit silly here, I should have just thrown my level 3 and be done with it. I don't know why I didn't, but hey, I will remember about it in a second, because I had 10 souls. I could have taken down 20% of his max health with Guillotine, regardless how much that actually is. But yeah, nonetheless, level 3, we're gonna finish it off and then we're gonna move on to the next fight. Now Guillotine does have some heal associated with her, but looking back, it probably was not realistic to even think that I will be somehow able to heal her up. I should have just went in with Darkhawk, but no, I'm gonna go first in with my 5% health Guillotine. Also, spoiler alert, we will not be using any items in this run, so even though we're gonna say goodbye to our Guillotine fairly early in the quest, Night Thrasher is gonna carry us through section 2 and 3 perfectly and even get some boss action. Now I do make a slip up against the boss once again, but nonetheless we managed to do some damage against the Thanos. So here, yeah, we are basically clinging in there with our last few percent. And I do need to be careful. I only have 3% health. I can't really take any block damage whatsoever, and that means if I'm kind of have to intercept, but if I mess it up like I did it just here, landed it in block and we're dead. But we still have Darkhawk, right? And we might as well flex that Darkhawk out a bit, just because he can't take on Freezer Burn and he cannot take on Buffed Up either. Therefore, these remaining section 1 fights will be where it is his time to shine. Now, because of Night Thrasher synergy, we already start in one of the 3 random modes. This time we are starting in the null mode, which is perfect just because that increases our damage output by quite a bit. And as you can see, we did manage to damage this Red Skull quite quickly, and we're still in null mode. And then I'm going to drop my level 2, and I do really enjoy Darkhawk's level 2, just because I like the fact that you can be super aggressive, you can gain your power back much faster and opponents don't gain as much power. And especially on node like Footloose, it's really advantageous because you really do not want your opponents to throw too many special attacks. Now he has 5% left, we're not doing too bad there, and we're finishing the fight out. That wasn't too difficult at all. And then we're going to be moving on to the next 2 fights in my section 1, and it is Wolverine and Hulkbuster. So there I had to wait a tiny bit till Wolverine gets unlinked, and I will so. Now that we're finally free, we're headed in the Wolverine fight. We're going to be using Darkhawk for this one as well, just because why not? We also gain class advantage, which is perfect. And let's see in which mode do we start. I do prefer starting either stealth or null mode. Null mode, so that worked out quite nice for us. And as we can see, our damage is quite good. And this is only a rank 4 Darkhawk, so definitely can't complain there too much. And yeah, we are taking down that Wolverine fairly quickly. The plan is to get to level 2 and then enter my stealth mode, because stealth mode will also work just fine in this fight. Because of the Footloose node, as I mentioned before, I do not want opponents to throw too many special attacks, and in stealth mode basically we give them a lot less power while we're striking them, so that's pretty much perfect there. And so far we're also doing good in health department, even though I haven't been particularly trying to save my health. I have been taking some hits in a block, but that regen is definitely helpful. And yeah, so here we go. Darkhawk took him down hardly, lost any health, and we're gonna move on to the next fight. And that's gonna be Hulkbuster fight. Now in this fight I'm gonna kind of again purposely play a bit sloppy, just because this in my head was the last fight where I'm gonna use the Darkhawk. Probably I shouldn't have been so kind of like brash, but once again we get lucky and we start in null mode, so that's perfect for us because we're able to dish out a lot of damage early on in the fight. And ideally you do want to simply bait out level 1s from Hulkbuster, but since I had like in the null mode on, I was like, I might as well just push him to level 2 because he didn't want to throw that level 1 anyways. So here I pushed him to 2 bars of power, just ate that, and with that I figured I should have enough time to actually change my modes, get some regen back up, and we also should be good in stealth mode. Unfortunately our damage drops quite a bit when we're out of null mode, and yeah, this fight was a bit longer than I expected it to be, so I'm also going to take a bit more block damage than I thought I would against this guy. But hey, it is what it is. So here we're back again to 2 bars of power, so we're remaining in our stealth mode. Unfortunately it was the mode that we were already in, therefore we did not get any bonus heal, but on the bright side that Hulkbuster is just on like 12% now, so we don't have too much to go. Just a couple more hits at him, like one more level 2, we just baited that one out, wait out the unstoppable, and we should be pretty much able to finish the fight out here. And unfortunately I do take a couple too many unnecessary hits in a block, but my next level 2 finishes off the fight, so all good there. 75% health, and I thought I'm done for section 1, but I woke up a bit later on in the evening and I realized that Bishop fight is up there free, and I figured I might as well do it just because I knew I'm not gonna need Darkhawk for anything afterwards. So if I do take a lot of damage or if I fail, it's not the worst thing. So unfortunately we started in like the armor mode from Darkhawk's energy, and that is the pretty much a useless mode to start in, because that is the one mode you definitely do not want to start in because it expires quite quickly, definitely before you are able to get to 2 bars of power, and that however means you cannot kind of like carry on your mode shifts and remain and utilize a heal basically. So that is like my biggest critic about Night Thrasher synergy with Darkhawk, is just the simple fact that 2 out of the 3 modes you're basically kind of like winning the lottery, but if you start in the shield mode it's pretty much worthless. Unfortunately it is what it is, and now this Bishop is only at 6% health, so I just need to swiftly finish him off. Now we await at level 2, a couple more hits, and he still somehow survived. Don't know how that happened, but a heavy attack and down he goes, and that will do for section 1. And then we're going to be moving on to section 2 already in the next morning. As always, by the time I wake up, Omega Red is clear, and my kind of like half of the map is pretty much waiting on me because it's down to the time zones and stuff like that. But yeah, so our first fight on Freezer Burn is Moon Knight, and he's nothing too special kind of there. The weight can be annoying, but Night Thrasher has obviously true accuracy on his skateboard hits, so I'm not going to be too bothered about that one. And yeah, it's a simple. Now, Night Thrasher is not cold snap immune, Therefore, I do have to be careful not to hit in his block, and that's about it. That Incinerate immunity is the main thing you need. It's kind of the same thing as when you play against Biohazard. You either need double immune character or at least a poison immune character, and then basically avoid touching opponent's block at all. So yeah, in this case, Night Thrasher does the job just fine. So we have Incinerate debuff on Moon Knight. We just landed Disorient. We're going to drop a heavy attack, which will trigger Taunt, which means we can gain our Furies and we can start dishing out a lot more damage. And now that we do, another level 1. And yeah, he's pretty much down there, 12% health. Evade that level 1. That gives us a chunk more power. At this point, I don't even know why I didn't just finish the fight off, but hey, we do it now. 31 hits, not too long a fight at all, and we didn't even manage to ramp up our Night Thrasher to his maximum ability. But the next fight is Heimdal, and he's actually quite annoying just because he has Strike Back on, and he's the one champion you definitely do not wish to push to level 2, so you definitely do have to be careful when you throw your special attacks. And also, because it's Freezer Burn node, his auto block can mess you up if you do not play around it, because if he auto blocks you and you get the Cold Snap on you, then that's not going to be a good time at all, will it? So you do have to be careful. Whenever he throws his special attack, you do want to make sure that you play around it. I did actually forget that Night Thrasher can still attack him safely, just because his skateboard attacks cannot be auto-blocked or evaded. But oh well, that's for the next day, I suppose. But still, I did manage to play around the auto-block regardless, fairly effectively. I didn't lose my debuffs. I got my Taunt on. At this point, we're building up Furies. We are building up damage. Don't have much to worry about. He's like nearly dead there. Just gonna finish him off with another heavy attack. 21 hits, so it's fairly quick and easy fight. Now I had to wait for my Yondu to get unlinked, and so I checked what kind of nodes he had on, but Yondu with stun immunity and empowered immunity, I was like, no, not this time. I'm not gonna risk it. But then once the link actually did come down, which is in a second, I headed straight in the fight, and let's see how we do that. Now with Yondu, I always say you just need to be careful at the beginning of the fight, because he is unblockable at start of the fight, and if you accidentally forget it and go for a parry, you will get wrecked very quickly. So you do need to wait out that unblockable. It's not too long, it's not too hard, it's like 8 or 10 seconds or whatever. So yeah, just dance about, dodge a bit, and then as well you can use Night Thrasher's power gain ability to get started quicker, and just dex a couple of times or parry a couple of times, and basically have a level 1 ready immediately. And then again, you can do the same thing for every kind of level 1. You will notice that with Night Thrasher, getting to your first bar of power is like super easy, just because every time you dex or parry, it gives a nice chunk of power there. And yeah, it definitely works very effective with the way Night Thrasher is intended to play, when you need to spam some level 1 attacks in order to start ramping him up. And now we drop a heavy attack. We did land a Taunt, which is perfect, because on 2 debuffs, on 2 gadget debuffs, you have 70% chance to land Taunt debuff. It's 70. On 3 debuffs, you have basically 100% chance. But this time we got lucky. We landed it on 2 debuffs, taunted. We have Furies going on over there, finishing the fight off 29 hits, so it wasn't a long fight at all. And then we have to move on to Section 3. Now, Section 3, my first fight is Massacre. And Section 3, all of the fights have buffed up node on them. That means I cannot deal any damage to opponents unless I have at least 3 buffs active on me. It can be the same buffs, and that is perfect for Night Thrasher, just because once you get your Taunt on, it is extremely easy to get the 3 Furies, and you can get to up max to 10. So yeah, it works super easy. You just need to kind of like get your Taunt on, so it means you need to play a bit careful at the beginning and make sure you land some of your level 1s. Drop a heavy attack and you're going to start gaining your Furies quite quickly. And since initial damage from Night Thrasher isn't all that great as well, and you do want to have his damage ramped up, it works fairly perfectly with how Night Thrasher is intended to be played. So here we land the first gadget debuff on this Massacre, which is Incinerate. Now he's going to drop his level 1, which is fair enough. At this point, I'm just going to refresh it and drop Heavy Attack, and I already got my Taunt with 1 debuff. That was only 35% chance to trigger the Taunt, but it worked out well for us. So now we have 3 buffs active for more, and then we can start dealing nice amount of damage. And as soon as we did that, we can see that our crits are dealing a lot of damage. Heavy attacks are dealing a lot of damage even if they don't crit, and we finished off the fight pretty much immediately as soon as we got the 3 Furies active. Now typically there's also a Netflix Daredevil that I do have to fight on buffed up, but my teammate did take care of that one, so I can head straight to this Iron Fist. And there's nothing too difficult about this guy either, just the unblockable and the start. Power Reserve does not really bother me at all in these fights. If anything, they do help you to spam your specials easier. And yeah, so I just want to get to my level 1 as quickly as possible, drop that, try and get my Taunt up as quickly as I can to start build up my Furies. And that's pretty much all she wrote. That's the game plan, pretty much always with Night Thrasher. No unexpected surprises there. So I did get in a couple of parries, a couple of dexes, so I immediately get back up to 1 bar of power. Now we're going to drop a heavy attack. No, wait, that was level 1. We're going to drop a heavy attack after this one. Yeah, now we have 3 debuffs on him though, so as soon as I drop my heavy attack, I'm guaranteed to taunt him and start building up my Furies. Now just a couple of hits and that's it. We're pretty much good to go. We're starting to deal damage. So hit number 25 was the first hit I actually dealt damage to him, and that took us exactly 6 hits after that. So that was a nice level 2 there. Definitely that skateboard can hit hard indeed. 6 hits to take him from 100% health to 0. Very easy with Night Thrasher. And now Loki. Loki again has Power Reserve on him. Aside from that, there's nothing special. He does build up his power below 1 bar of power very quickly, but that's not a bad thing, especially for Night Thrasher, just because it gives us more opportunities to dex his special attacks or parry them and build up more power easily ourselves. So now we're dropping our second level 1, which gives us second gadget debuff, and at this point I basically just need to make sure I land a heavy attack and we're good to go. So Taunt does trigger. I can start building up my Furies. At this point I also dropped my third level 1 just to get like a full set of debuffs. As you can see here, 1 heavy attack and he basically drops down super quickly. So another combo, level 1, and he's close to being dead at 13% there. Not much to worry about. We're at 9 Furies. Just dex another level 1. Just a couple more hits and the fight is over. Once again, 31 hits, so fairly quickly. And now the fight after that is technically not on my path anymore, and technically it's actually quite a bad matchup for Night Thrasher, but I still wanted to try whether we can do it or can't do it. So it's Groot, right? The problem with Night Thrasher is the fact that you need to debuff your opponent, and Groot obviously shrugs them off a lot quicker. So on paper that should be a horrible time for Night Thrasher to get started. But in reality, we are able to play around it just because Night Thrasher has also quite useful ability on his level 3, and that places a passive on opponent that extends all our debuff duration by 75%. So we can basically counter the Groot's early shrug off abilities using our level 3. So that is pretty much the game plan over here. We are building up to our level 3. And then we're going to drop that one, and then we should be good to go to start building up our debuffs and Furies, so on and so forth. Now obviously Groot is a bleed immune, therefore we are losing all of the extra bleed damage we would be getting from Guillotine synergy. However, with those Furies we should still be able to achieve quite a nice damage output. So here we go, we drop our level 3, we see that there is a passive icon on Groot at this point, and now we can pretty much safely start dropping our debuffs because all of their duration is going to be extended by 75%, which will give us more than enough time to actually start stacking them up. As we can see here, they're not going down all that slow. We have enough time to drop another level 1 if we choose to, or refresh them with a heavy attack, or whichever is the approach we're going to go to. Also, the fact that all of our debuffs are extended by 75% will let us parry and heavy him safely. Now, I did make a small slip up there, but it didn't kind of like damage me too much. I'm still at 61% health, which is not too bad, because Thrasher is a tanky guy for sure. Now, we did have 2 debuffs on him, and we have the 7 Furies at this point. We refreshed the debuffs. Now we're dropping another heavy attack. That was a nice crit there for 10k. And now we have reached our 10 Furies. I dropped my level 3 to get my passive debuff back on, so I can maintain all of my gadget debuffs on Groot. At this point, it wasn't actually even important to have those debuffs there, just because I already have my 10 Furies. My damage definitely has went up, but Thrasher also receives critical rating damage per debuff on opponent, and Darkhawk synergy lowers their armor, so it is in fact beneficial to try and keep as many debuffs as we can on opponent, because that further increases our damage output. So here we have 3 debuffs on Groot, and we're definitely hitting harder than we did before. Even in like our non-crits are easily hitting for 2k plus there, and Groot is a tanky guy as well. So we have spent about 2.5 minutes in this fight, and he has 25% health left, and we have pretty much peaked out on our damage as much as we can in this fight, which is quite awesome. Now I dropped my level 2, unfortunately only 1 hit their crits. I was hoping if it's a 2 crit, then I'll pretty much be able to finish him off, but nonetheless it's only 6% left, so 1 combo, another level 1, and down he goes. So yeah, Thrasher can deal with Groot fairly effectively. It only took us 3 minutes to take down that beefed up mini boss before Thanos. And now I do have some bit of Thanos fight left. Now I am not kind of like the greatest guy when it comes to dealing with Thanos. I do tend to mess up.
And another way around it obviously is
also probably down to the fact that I
Crossbones. Now Crossbones also has ability accuracy reduction based on his PV meter. However, he never crits.
Level 1 bar,
right? Because he never crits, opponent will never get a single piece of stack of spiked armor, because they only activate on your critical hits. So this will also be the same case for Guillotine 2099, because I believe she can't crit either, and that is quite that simple. Another interactive way to deal with spiked armor is Namor, just because Namor can reflect all the damage you would take right back to the opponent, so you basically just benefit from that spiked armor being there. If anything at all, it simply enhances your damage output, and that's pretty much about it. There is not much else to say. Even a low rank Namor can do some really good damage with spiked armor. Road to the labyrinth. One thing to note though is you do want your Namor to be max sig or close to it, because you want to reflect the damage reliably. Unduped Namor will not work for this, however.
I definitely enjoy
while the Namor fight is going on, because who doesn't want to see Namor drop a couple of level 3s, and what kind of damage 2k Namor can deal to
but yeah guys, let me know what you thought about
yes, so the format of this video is I'm going to be talking about the 3 global nodes you will know how to counter, and then I'm going to be going through all of the fights in each of the quests and kind of making a note of the more difficult ones, and maybe giving